Good afternoon and welcome to Lauderdale Lead. I always ask this every month. Who is here for the first time? Raise your hand and let's welcome them. We're glad you're here for the first time. We go through May and June, then we take July off. So we'll be here for 2 more months. We have a belief that leaders have influence and everyone has influence. So everyone is a leader. Little A plus B, B plus C, A equals C, little algebra. Leadership is influence. Everyone has influence, which means everyone is a leader. Different people lead different ways and in different types of situations. So we have 4 types that we work at here at Lauderdale Lead. And I'm going to tell you because we can only do one at a time. And every month we take one of them. So the first is leadership of yourself. We actually talk about and believe that you need to lead yourself before you lead somebody else. If you cannot lead yourself, it's a disaster trying to lead someone else. We call it hypocrisy. We call it not doing what you say and telling people what to do and not doing it yourself. It's all wrong. It's not really leadership. It's more dictatorial type things. So leading of yourself. The second is leading one other person. The new word is coaching. You could use the word mentoring. You could use partnering and leading of someone else. The third type of leadership is leading as a team and leading your team. And you can lead from any chair you are in your team. You don't have to be the head of the team. And then the fourth type of leadership is leading an organization or a division or a part of your company or the entire company. And so today what we're going to talk about is leading yourself. Now, you're going to want to think of other people who apply to this. You're going to say, oh, that's her, or that's him. But before you do that, just for the next 30 minutes, think of yourself before you start personifying these attributes onto somebody else. Can you do that? So I want you to think about yourself and your own leadership. And we're going to do it using a metaphor. The metaphor is 5 gears in a car. Now, most of us have cars that are automatic transmissions, but some of you like the standard transmission. You may not realize this, and I know our grandchildren won't even be driving cars, they tell us, right? Cars are going to be like horses, something that only a few people have. But there's 5 speeds. Nowadays, they even have 6 speeds. But 5 speeds in a car, and you move about them without even knowing it in an automatic. But if you have a standard, you move it. So we're going to look at your life and my life in 5 gears. Can we do that? Now let's look at this. Why? Because I want to talk about how we can be productive and yet present in our business. There is this huge issue, we can call it a divide. Do we deal with the personal side of people, or are we a task-oriented person? Do we deal with the work, or do we deal with the people? And all of us fall somewhere on that line. Some of us are more people-oriented, some of us are more task-oriented. And I want us to look at it in 5 gears today, if we could do that. And you have a sheet there in front of you in that little trifold thing there. You can pull it out if you want to take notes, because it's quite interesting. And we're going to start in the 5th gear. So we're going to work from the 5th gear down to the 1st gear. Can we do that? So the 5th gear, I just want to describe them a little bit. Here's the 5th gear. The 5th gear is when you are in the zone. In a car, it's called overdrive. It's when you're on the turnpike or you're out on Alligator Alley. It's when there's no traffic lights, no pedestrian stops. You can't get into 5th gear on Federal Highway. And nowadays, you barely can get in 5th gear on I-95, right? Kind of stop and go. But when you head to Orlando, you head to Naples, you can get into 5th gear. And what that means in 5th gear in a car is you're looking at the horizon, you got the gas pedal going, you're not worrying about shifting or even your car worrying about shifting, you're moving. So what does that mean as a person? In business. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to give you the positives of this and then the negatives of this. And you're going to say, are you a 5th gear person? So let's look at the positives. The positives of a person working in the 5th gear is someone who works on the business. You're a visionary. You're looking at the business, kind of at the horizon. Where are we heading? We're working on the business. Do you know what I mean by working on the business? Where you're taking time, you've shut the door, you've gone off site, it's quiet, you can talk or you can work uninterrupted. It's the kind of time when you're working and all of a sudden you go, boy, it's 6 o'clock already. Because you're just working, and you're working on the business. It's long-term thinking, it's planning, it's strategy, it's dreaming. Well thought out work. Fifth gear work, it's an incredible opportunity. This time of year for us, I work on a school schedule. Our kind of programming where I work is on a school schedule. So September is the beginning of our year. And so now is our planning time. Now is when we're in the fifth gear. This is when we're working on it. But there are some negatives to the fifth gear. Let's look at them. The negatives are you can become very exhausted. There's an exhaustion that happens. You can become overworked, burned out, not spending enough time with important relationships, always working. Most people who run out of gas in the fifth gear. Why? Because you're never looking at the dials. When you're in the car, you're always looking on the fifth gear, you're looking out. You're not looking at the road right in front of you, you're looking at the cows and the animals and the buildings far away and the canals and the beauty of the day and the sunrise or the sunset. You're looking way out and not looking right here because you don't have to. And then all of a sudden, you stop. I have a daughter I have 5 children, so I won't name because some of you know my children. My daughter goes 100 miles an hour and then drops. She doesn't slow down, she drops. She runs out of gas, and then it takes about 2 days, fills up with gas in her life, and then she runs at 100 miles an hour again. She is a constant fifth gear person. She's only in her 20s and she just runs in the fifth gear, but it's not like slowing down and then speeding back up. It's just fast or nothing. And that's the negative of fifth gear. Now let's look at fourth gear. I'm going to explain these and then we're going to do something with them. So let me tell you the fourth gear. The fourth gear is leading in the task world. If you have a standard shift car, the goal is to get into the fourth gear. That's where it's the best. That's going 35, 40 miles an hour, and you want to get going because that's where you can move about town quickly. You don't want to be in fifth gear, you don't want to be in second gear, you want to be in fourth gear. Task-oriented people. These are the people that you want to hire because they can run your business. Now, here are the positives of a task-oriented person. Strong work ethic. You're the one who gets things done. You're the go-to person. Oh, let's give it to her. Why? Because she can get to 40 miles an hour so quickly and she just runs. Let's give her a little more work. Let's give it to her because she's good. She's timely or he's timely. They're excellent in their work. They're diligent in behavior. They prioritize their work, and they do to-do lists. Now, we did a whole study on to-do lists a couple months ago. How many of you like to-do lists? How many? Good. Keep your hands up. This is an intervention. How many of you like to write down what you've already done so you can check it off? There you go. See, you who don't do this have no clue what that means. So today, this is what they're going to do. I'm one of them. So I'm a co-belligerent here. So I got to go to you guys over here at Banyan in a few minutes to get therapy. But this is what you do, right? At noon you go, I forgot to do my to-do list. Well, I talked to so-and-so. So you write it all down so you can check them off. It's just incredible. Okay, so what's the negatives? This is huge. Negatives, your phone is by your bed. How many have their phone by their bed? Okay. Do you realize this is not a phone anymore? You do not own a phone. You own a computer that looks like a phone. It's a texting machine. It's an email machine. It's an internet machine. It's a USA Today machine. You can get the news. You don't have to wait for the paper to be thrown at 7 in the morning. You can get it all anytime, and you do that. You're always answering your emails and texts. Now, don't look at someone else but does anybody ever do that? So the little therapy here, I'll give you. So my assistant helps me do the slides, so she would get so mad at me. She would leave the office at 6:30 or 7 at night, the email box cleaned out, the text box cleaned out, and when she comes to work, there are 20 emails and 20 texts from me because they're clicking all night long, because if I'm thinking it, I'm doing it. I'm a fourth gear person. If you're a fourth gear person, be careful. The problem is this: you wake up in the fourth gear. Now, in a car, I used to have standard shift cars. You can start your car in fourth gear once or twice. A real car. You can do it. I've done it. You will pop the clutch, you'll break the clutch. Eventually, this whole system of the car breaks down if you are constantly going from zero, sleep, to fourth gear right away. So if you're a fourth gear person that wakes up in the fourth gear, goes to bed in the fourth gear, just understand. Being physically present but intellectually and emotionally absent. Now, I don't carry my phone up here because it buzzes and different things, so it's the one time in my life I don't have a phone when I'm in front of people. But how many of you have gone to your kids' ball games, your daughter's gymnastics, your son's play, and you're doing this? You're physically present, but you're emotionally or intellectually or business, you're somewhere else. That's a classic fourth gear person. And every one of you's done it one time, but those of you who are classic fourth gear people do it constantly. You're always doing that. That's the negative. Relationships can become unhealthy that way. I'm talking to you, but I'm really thinking about something else. That's fourth gear, negative side. Tasks become more important than people. Third gear. I'm not going to go into anything more about that just for a minute. Third gear, I want to get this. Third gear is being social, and I'm talking in the business context, not in dating or marriage or live the life marriage. That's all important. But third gear is the personal side of business, the social side, the interactive side of business. Let me give you the positives and negatives to it. The positives, you get work done over lunch, sports outings, you name it, you can get work done. I get work done. I want to go to an office or go somewhere and I can get it done with you. But when I play golf or do my recreation, I like doing recreation. I don't want to do work. But some people go, I played golf yesterday and closed the deal. I go, wow, you're great, because I couldn't do that. That's a social person, the person that works at lunch, that loves it, can do these kind of things, and really is interactive with people. It's very positive. It's very good. Third gear conversations can lead to fourth gear work. People public relations people are great at this. Rainmakers in your company are great at this. They can take a social conversation and turn it into business. When they turn it into business, they usually turn it over to a fourth gear person to do whatever needs to be done in your business. But that's a very positive thing. It's very important because someone dies, a mother of your employee dies. If you're a fourth gear person, if I can be honest, you don't care. That's what we'll talk about that at 7 o'clock tonight. You came to work, we're going to work. That's fourth gear. Third gear is, the positive is you find out that someone has a parent who's aging, or someone has a sick kid, or someone's mother just died. You're going to pause and do something about it. There's very important. You third gear people are critical to a company. And those of us who are in fourth and fifth gear all the time need to understand that. There are some negatives though. Spending too much time talking and not enough time working. That's classic. Too much time talking. There is time to talk, time to work. Not being able to close the deal. Sometimes social people just can't do what needs to be done in the company. And if they're really bad, they're procrastinators. They're missing doing real fourth gear work. You're hired to do work. And unless you are the rainmaker of your organization, you're hired to do work. So there's social time, there's work time. Sometimes it leads to lack of discipline, lack of professionalism, and the classic late for appointments. Third gear people are late for appointments. Now, is anybody here from Jamaica or Haiti? There you go. My wife is Jamaican, so I get it. And you go, Jamaicans are classic third gear people. I know I'm not supposed to stereotype, but my wife is a classic third gear people. Never, watches aren't important, looking at the time. They're relationally oriented. But can I just say this with respect? You guys live in America, and time is important, because what happens is the first appointment of the day, you're late because you were doing your thing at home, and then you're in that appointment and you're late for the next appointment, and then your lunch appointment, you're late, and all of a sudden, you gotta live with some structure. Let me ask a question. Who does not need an alarm clock to wake up at the time you wanna wake up? Okay, you people are fourth gear people. It's classic. I can say, I want to get up tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and I will wake up at 6 o'clock. If I say I want to wake up at 6:15, I'll wake up at 6:15. I don't need an alarm clock. It's one of those things. You just kind of train yourself. But that's not always good, because when it's now 12:15 and my appointment with you's over and it's in the middle of something, I'm going, I got to go to the next place. I'm not really concerned about you. I'm more concerned about the task. You got to be careful. There is an art to this. So now let's take a short break here. Around your tables, very quickly, tell people, you don't have to explain it, are you a fifth gear person, a fourth gear person, or a third gear person? They're the three main gears. Which one are you? Talk around your tables for a minute. Okay, let's turn our attention back here. So, a little self-disclosure. How many of you are fifth gear people? Raise your hand. Real high so we can all see you. Excellent, good. All right. How many of you are fourth gear people? Raise your hand. Which is usually the case, keep them raised. Usually fourth gear is the most. And how many of you are third gear? Raise your hand. Wow, there's a whole table in the back. That's, wow. You want to go to their Christmas party. You may not want to hire them though. I don't know. So that's good. Okay, third gear. This is where you understand people's character. Now you go, I want to hire a plumber. They just got to know how to plumb. True. But you want to give them the keys to your house. You want to give them the keys to your garage. You want to give them, you got to know their character a little, right? Character you can find out in the third gear. Competence, which is what business runs on, competence is fourth gear. And vision is fifth gear. And I would say you need to learn to move between those three gears. You need to move between the three gears. Don't get stuck in one gear. You've got to move up and down. Sometimes, even in a meeting, you've got to move. If you're going on a vision meeting and it's Monday morning, what if somebody just lost their father the night before? Hey, we're here. We've planned this vision meeting for 4 weeks. This is the time of year. It's time. You're going to have to pause for a minute and shift down to third gear and start talking about that. You can't stay there forever. You might want to take it offline, but you've got to move about, and it really is an art. And you as business people need to understand that art of moving back and forth so that you can transverse your business cycle and things like that. Let me give you an example. Okay, I'm classic fourth gear. I've told you that. I've confessed it. That's who I am. So when I started in business, I was very young. I was 21, started. I got a client who was recommended to me. I was in real estate, sold real estate. I'm a salesman and sold real estate. He wanted to buy and sell. He's from Jamaica, the islands, or Haiti, Jamaica, and came up here, had a lot of money, and wanted to use it to buy real estate. Loved it. So he would say, come on over and let's talk real estate. I'd come on over and we'd have lunch. And then, coffee. And then at 12:55, he would go, show me what you've got. And so I'm ready to jump into a 40-minute discussion. He wants a 5-minute discussion. So he says, just leave it for me. And let's decide this next week. So next week I come back and he would do the same thing. And I wasn't married. He brings his kids, he brings his wife. We're meeting them all, and it's just ridiculous. And then he would go at 12:55, let's buy that one. So I'd do the contract, and then I'd have to have lunch again before he'd sign it, and on it went. This was like every week. I don't want to have lunch. I want to do deals. I close deals. That's what I do. I don't want lunch. But that's what he wanted. Why? He wanted to understand my character, because character to him was more important than even competence. And what's amazing is I married his daughter. And when I asked him to marry his daughter, we've been married 36 years now, and I did 29 deals with him, and most of them was before I got married to him. Once I got married, he said, I can't do deals with you now, but I'm only kidding. But it was an amazing thing because he understood my character. Because all that time he did, it was important to him. He was smart enough to know what property to buy and not buy. He didn't need a 45-minute discussion. The man was brilliant. He just needed me to show him the things. I thought he needed me. He didn't need me. Character is so important. Now, there's a second gear and a first gear. Let's go to second gear. We're downshifting to second gear. Second gear is connecting deeply with people. This is outside of work. Now, it may be people you work with, but it's outside the 9 to 5 time. Let me tell you this, if you only live in the third, fourth, and fifth gear, can I just say it isn't worth it? It is just not worth it because you will leave people behind. You need to develop deep, long, lifelong relationships, and you only can do that by working with them when you slow down. Second gear. Now let's just look at some positives. You're truly present. That's when you really are present. When I was having lunch with my future father-in-law, I wasn't really present. I was waiting for the moment that I could say, did you look at the contract? Did you do this? Are we going to buy that? I was being social, but I wasn't being present. I wasn't being deeply connected. You can develop lifelong, meaningful relationships, have deep conversations. This is important. Married, not married, within the marriage it's important, and to develop better marriages. We have a whole group here. But whether you're single or married, to have deep, lifelong relationships is important. If it's all about the money, it's all about the next deal, it's all about growing and having more employees, it gets pretty old pretty fast. Can I just tell you, it does. And I've been in business a long time, and I'm in the people business now, and it is just not worth it. The negatives, though, there are negatives to being deeply connected. One is that you think you need to be deeply connected with everybody at work. And so the people who do this tell others way too much information. Have you ever gone to work and someone's just telling you about everything about their life? And you just go, okay, this is just too much information. And that it's all about them, always talking about yourself, your children, your spouse, your parents, what you did over the weekend. You're more interested in talking than listening. There's a whole art to listening, and this is not a discussion on listening, but if you're going to deeply connect, you have to be a strong listener. The negative about being deeply connected, sometimes it's all about you. I want to connect with you so that I can tell you everything about me. I want you to help me. That's not connecting. That's just plugging into somebody, and that's not good. So that's number 2. Number 1, first gear. And this to me is the gear you should be starting in every day. It's learning to recharge. Recharge is not just sleeping. There's a lot more to recharging. And many of us recharge in different ways. So think of your phone. There's 2 ways to recharge your phone. You may not know this. You only know of one way here in South Florida. One is to plug it in and trickle charge it. You just plug it in and nothing. You just sit there and watch it charge. That's like one way to charge. I just want to sit on the couch and do nothing. And that's recharging. For others, though, when I travel, and I travel all summer long and in the fall a lot, all over the world, I take a solar pack with me. And then I plug my phone in the solar pack. I have to be outside. I have to be in the sun. There has to be a lot of activity going on, and it charges. Some of you like activity to recharge. Some of you like no activity. So I'm not here to say sitting on a couch is recharging or going snorkeling or diving is recharging. For some it is, for some it isn't. Just think about when you walked in today. You walked in today, everybody's talking, it's loud, people are in your way, and for some of you, you thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to get over to that food? It's like, and then people are going to talk to me and ask me where I work and what I do, and then I got to sit all the way over here, and how am I going to get, and some of you go, this is just more than I can handle. You don't like it, right? Because when you're like, a little more introverted, it's great. Some of you walk into the room and what do you say? Wow, this is fantastic. I talked to 12 people before I got to the food. I talked to 20 people while I was holding my food. You're extrovert. It's just, we recharge differently. Now let's look at the positives and negatives of this. Positives are being quiet, learning to unplug, being fully present. The Bible calls it Sabbath. Those of you that come out of the Jewish background and we who come out of the Christian background, God says do it every week. Take a whole day to recharge. Take a whole day. That's what he says. And we're lucky if we get 2 hours to recharge. Anybody that comes to me and goes, I haven't had a day off in 5 months. Can I just say, this is not a word you're ever supposed to say in public, but that's stupid. Can I just say it? And I know you're going to come back and say, never say stupid in front of people, but it really is. It's foolish. You should recharge. It's an important part. And in a car, you can start a car in second gear. You can start a car in third gear, but it is meant to start in first gear. You and I are meant to start in first gear. When I found this out and I really understood this, I recharged at night. Most of you recharge at night. I recharge in the morning. I spend an hour a morning when I'm with no one else. I pray, I ask God to help me through the day. I contemplate, I do a little gear 5, just kind of thinking, what am I going to do over the next few days? Just kind of think out a little. It's just who I am. And I do my recharging before I jump into fourth gears, because I'm a fourth gear person. I kind of work my way up to that. Negatives, though, there is a negative to the first gear, crashing. My daughter crashing. Now, you students who are from Westminster, you think cramming for the finals you're going to go through in the next 2 weeks is studying? Cramming's not studying. Crashing is not recharging. So just going 100 miles an hour and then crashing, that's not recharging. Recharging is systematically taking some time to be quiet. Now again, you don't have to be quiet on a couch, but to do something that you're not doing. But the other negative, sometimes it turns into escapism. Sometimes you don't want to deal with reality. Sometimes you just sleep in too often. You go, I just need to recharge. I need to recharge. Well, those kind of people get fired, right? You show up late. Well, I was recharging this morning. Well, you don't say those words, but you actually do those things. Okay, our time's almost up. Real quick. There's one more gear I haven't mentioned. What gear is that? Reverse. There's reverse. Let's talk about reverse. Why do you have reverse? Reverse is being responsive when you make mistakes. Reverse is being responsive when you make mistakes. I just taught my youngest daughter how to drive. The three-point turn was a struggle. You don't have to parallel park nowadays, which is great for her. She got her license, all was cool, but that reverse thing's tough. What is reverse in relationships? Let me give you 10 words. You got to apologize. You have made a mistake. It may not be, we as pastors like to use the word sin. It could be a sin, but it could just be a mistake too. I was wrong. I am sorry. Will you forgive me? Take ownership of the mistakes you make. I was wrong. Apologize. Use the words that are yours. These are just simple words. I am sorry. Will you forgive me? And in America, can I tell you, people are forgiving. It is an amazing thing. Let me tell you a quick story, and we're going to close on this. A couple years ago, I was down in Jamaica working with some people, with some poor people and how to get them out of poverty. So we're on this street. I'm with a lady, her children, her sister, her children, her cousin, and her children. There's like 12 children, 3 adult ladies. They're living in this hovel of a home, tin roof, it's rain, the whole thing. It's mud in the house, typical abject poverty. You've seen it. I live through these things. I go all over the world and help people. I'm there. So we leave. Don't do anything. We've met her, kind of seen the situation. I'm in the car in Jamaica. My phone rings. Fourth gear, phone rings. I never go anywhere without my phone. My phone rings. It's my maintenance man back up here in Boca. Bill, the sprinkler system in the building just went off. They were doing work out in the street. They didn't turn it, the valve off when they turned the pressure on. It went into the building, and we just discovered this, older building, that your office is the entry point of the water into the sprinkler suppressant system. 600 gallons of water are in your office before we could turn it off. Now, what you don't know is that I have 4,000 books in my office. 4,000 books. You know what water and books do? So I'm on the phone, I go, how many of my books are destroyed? He goes, he couldn't speak. He said 1,000 books. Now think about it, $18 a clip, you figure it out. Do the math. I'm driving along getting madder and madder and madder and madder and forgetting this lady, her sister, and her cousin, and those 12 kids. I come back to Boca. I live in an upper middle class neighborhood. I just kind of forgot it all. And I'm a preacher. So I'm about to preach in front of 1,000 people. And I don't believe God speaks to me directly, but he spoke to me. He said, "You're a fool." Just before I was coming out, and I said, "What do you mean?" "You're more concerned about books than you are people." I got on my knees and I apologized to God because nobody else knew this. This was between me. This was me being mad and proud and angry. It was me. And this is what I heard. And again, I don't believe in hearing noises, but it came to me, build her a house. Build the lady a house. So I get up to the church and I said, "Church, pastors are held at a different group. If we did what Trump did, you guys would hang us from the rafters." That's not a political statement. That's a social statement, a Gear 3 statement. But so I apologized to the group. I said to 1,000 people, I said, "I sinned this week. I was more interested in my books." My wife's sitting down here. I said, "Honey, we've got to build this lady a house." I didn't have the money to build her a house, but we're going to build her a house. So I said, everybody here, if you want to help me build her a house, just come to the back. My assistant's going to be standing next to me. Just give her the money. $1, $5, $10, $1,000. I don't care. I won't even know about it. At the end of church, we had enough money to build 2 houses. 2 houses. The lady and her sister. I'm going, yes, this is so cool. And then I realized I was told to build the house and I haven't put a penny into this. I said, I have got to build a house. So we built 3 houses. 3 houses. Went back. It was an exciting time, but there are times, people, friends, where saying sorry is just not enough. Sometimes a little restitution, a little action behind your words is important. Why? What I said at the beginning, all of us have influence. Leadership is influence. Use it to change people's lives. And if you do, we can do what Rob has asked us, and that is to change Fort Lauderdale and make this a great place to live, work, play, and worship. Thank you.